Hi Sarah, what you been up to?
Hello. Other than feeling roasting hot in the conservatory, not a lot. I seem to have done lots of phone calls today. Although I did sit outside earlier and Tim accidentally popped a water balloon all over my leg.
Oh, nice. You actually need it in this weather. We've been spending all morning creating a shade area in our garden, trying to like create a corner because there's one tiny bit of shade. Otherwise, the rest of the garden's just completely in sun. And if we're feeling like this and it's May, I don't know how we're going to survive the summer.
Yes, I know. It's although I think it kind of gets really warm in June and then it starts cooling down by the time it gets to
Yeah,
August.
probably. Just lockdown weather. At least we're having a nice time during lockdown.
Yes, yes, it's nice to have some sun.
Yeah, so we just thought we'd pop on today just to talk about why we use and why we've chosen the Young Living oils over any other oils. And there's a big range of reasons that we both have chosen. When I first started using essential oils, it took me months and months and months of reading and research, and I literally read every article I could. I was reading old newspaper articles, different files I could find, research articles, and I pored over the information absolutely before I would be convinced which company to use. So I did a lot of research at that stage, and then I went in with Young Living, and I've never regretted that. So the oils are really good quality, but also there's a lot about the ethics that I really like. And there's one thing in particular that really struck me, and that came out in January 2019, and that was the zero waste pledge. So they set a pledge at that stage for 5 years. It's like a plan for how they see their business going, and it's that aspect of it that particularly speaks to me, because I think when you use essential oils, it's nice because you can start getting rid of the plastic within your homes. That's one of the biggest wins. Obviously, you're getting rid of a lot of the chemicals and you're feeling healthier and your emotions are better. But one of the things I really like is getting rid of all those single-use plastics and making your own products. And it's just lovely to see that the company have a plan to go zero waste, and they're working on towards that plan. One of the things I think I've always been impressed with is that they try, and I've heard that their offices are so zero waste that they've actually been training other lots of businesses how to also go zero waste within the office kind of settings. So that's really good, something to be proud of. I've heard they've built this building that's got like a botanical atrium in the middle, and it allows sunlight. Then they use the solar panels, and they're conserving their energy with like glass walls, and they've got locally sourced materials. They're always very ethical about whenever they're growing essential oils or having any buildings or farms that they're using these locally resourced materials to try and support the local environment. So that's something that I've always thought was very important. And we're starting to see bit by bit that they're changing things over. Our monthly boxes are getting less and less plastic. They're more paper and recyclable products within there. And so it should be complete by 2024. So we've still got a long way to go. And I'm hoping COVID won't have ruined those plans, because I know there's a lot of people having to use more plastic, for example, medical gloves and lots of these hand sanitizers kicking about. So I'm not sure if things have taken a little bit of a turn for the worse with COVID. But Sarah, what was it that you was liking about?
Well, to start with, I think it was years and years ago, before Young Living, I was with a company called Lakisma, and I kind of learned enough with that company to know that not all essential oils are created equal. So I didn't understand quite the science behind it as I do now. Not that I understand it great now, but I have a much better understanding. But back then I did know. I was taught that, essential oils are regulated with the cosmetic industry, which is, although we're quite stringent with some of the ingredients, there's still hundreds of questionable ingredients that are allowed in our products, and labeling can be a bit vague. And so once I saw Young Living, I don't even know why it was. I just seemed to know that they were a really good company. I've got good intuition. That's what I'm saying. So, but then when I found out more, it's all like, the seed to seal and the distillation process, because the fact is, if an oil, even if it's perfectly pure, so you can have pure peppermint or whatever, but if it hasn't been distilled properly, it won't contain the chemical constituents. At the end of the day, if you want to use essential oils in a therapeutic way, you need the chemical compounds inside, because that is what carries all the special stuff, and that's what does what we call the magic, and that's what has the therapeutic values. So, like, for example, cypress, that's always my favorite example, because we know that it actually contains 280 known constituents. If you distill it for 20 hours, you actually only get 20 of those constituents. And if you distill it for 24 hours, you get 0. 26 hours, you get 0. And I believe the correct amount of time is 24. Now, most essential oil companies, what they do is they will go, there's lots of middlemen involved. So they'll source the oil, then they'll send it to a distillation plant, and they will distill it. They won't even have any say over how long it's distilled. Another really good thing, we should perhaps do a video about this later, is the distillation process itself, and the first distill and the complete distill, and actually how you distill it is so, so important. So, and then they'll get the oil and they'll bottle it. So even if it's pure, you do not know that it's going to contain all the chemical constituents, which with Young Living, because they are totally in charge of the process, from choosing the seed to growing it, and even the partner farms that they don't own, they have really high standards that when the oils come in, or when the plants come in, they have stringent testing, and if it fails, that's it. They don't use those plants for making oils. And what they do is sell them off to the other essential oil companies, which is really interesting to know, the people that don't have quite such high standards as Young Living do. So I know, like, if I buy a bottle of peppermint, I want it to do what, I believe peppermint can do. So that's my main kind of reason that I will only use Young Living oils, because I trust them, and they've shown with the research and the science that they're trustworthy.
Yes, and you get to experience that when you smell and use the oils, don't you? Because they're that little bit stronger. So, yeah.
One of the other telling me,
sorry, what did you say?
I remember someone saying to me, "Oh, I can't believe I only needed to use a drop of lavender," because she was using something cheaper and she was needing like 5 to 10 drops. And I'm like, yeah, no, 1 drop goes a long way.
It does, doesn't it? I met another lady who was saying, don't you have to put like about 20 drops of oil in your diffuser? And I was like, no. I might have got a problem with your oils there. Yes. But yeah, so it's almost like a false economy, isn't it, when people buy that cheap? So one of the other things that I really like about the company is they've got the foundation, which is the charity. So they're supporting lots of different people across the world, really. And one of the key words they've got in this 5-year pledge, and for the charity, for their goals with the charity, is empowerment, which I really like, because that's what they're trying to do. They're not just trying to go in and railroad and sort everything out. They're adding education in at every stage, so trying to empower people to help themselves. For example, one of the charities they've got in Uganda, where all the children and adults are barefoot around the soil, and they get the jiggers in the feet. I don't know if you've ever come across that. And then these jiggers can get really infected and horrible. And it just takes a bit of education and a bit of, I think they have to dig them out to start with, but they've got all these clinics that they've set up, but they help the problem, but then they try and give people education just to help them get out of the situation they're in. But also the other thing about the foundation is that they fund it all. So any of our money that goes towards the charity actually goes on the charity, because all the costs of running a charity are covered by the company. So that's just something nice that they do. And they've got these missions all over the world, really. Nepal, Ecuador, Africa, literally. I think they often look where they've got farms, don't they? And build relationships up in those areas where they might have got a farm, and then they identify a need, and that's where they decide to go and help the situation. So I think they see themselves as a green leader and a company with high moral standards. So that's some of the things that you feel that you're not just buying oils that have been used by cheap labour in, you know, a different part of the world. In fact, I think, was it one of the countries they were using people for labour? They noticed all the children were coming into work with the farm hands. So they set up some kind of education centre or you know, something for the kids to be provided for when they realised that childcare was a problem and that actually the people couldn't work without the help. So that was interesting.
Yeah, and that's what I like as well, because when they go into the other countries, they tend to work with the people. So when they have partner farms, they don't just go and think, oh, I'm just going to go and plant. If there's a country there, if there's a farm that's already growing an oil that they perhaps want to, but they're struggling, they go in and they partner with them, and they don't take over, but they, you know, although they have their standards, they actually work with the people and they always want to help. So I just think that ethics are really high. And same with the charity, when they go in, a lot of charities will just like swoop in, kind of do with the people on the ground, so that it actually is something that they can work towards self-sustaining long term.
Yeah, it just makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? It all fits in the bigger picture of how we all want to be kind of living lives. So what are you going to do this afternoon, Sarah? Are you there?
Yeah. I don't actually know.
You're breaking up a bit on my screen.
I might go and sit in the garden. Yeah, can you not hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, just your face I can't see.
Still.
Oh, you're breaking up now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you just keep breaking up. It's probably
time I'm still here. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Oh, no. I'm gonna. Yes. No, I don't. I think we're having a barbecue for. So we're having a barbecue for tea. So I think we'll be sitting in the garden.
Nice. Sounds lovely. We've got a house to go and view this afternoon. So, right. Well, we best get off and hope that everybody's having a nice Friday afternoon and it's the weekend and the weather is good and everything's looking good. So, speak to you all soon.
Oh dear. Oh well, we've nearly finished.